Hello, Georgina Gankars here, and we're just going to be doing a fast demo today. I was showing you how to use different types of brushes. This happens to be a flat brush, and it's a natural hair brush. You can see how thick the bristles are at the end. In other words, it's not a flat hair brush that is very thin. This one happens to be synthetic, so we're going to use this one today. I'm not going to pay attention to the number because the number could be according to the manufacturer. Some manufacturers might have a number 8, and sometimes this brush might be considered a number 10, depending on the manufacturer. So let's just look at the size of the brush. And I'm just going to show you this method again where I cut off in the last video, where we're just picking up a color, and I have green on the edge of my brush, and we're just dabbing it. We're kind of leaving those white spaces in between, and we're going to go with another color. I haven't cleaned my brush. We're just going in between those spaces. And we're putting a yellow. And we kind of get that going on. So you can still see the green and the yellow. If you press harder, the colors will blend into each other. And just so you know, I just dipped my brush in water and wiped it off on a rag. If I had acrylics and watercolors, I would do that. With oils, I could dip it into a little bit of my turpentine, and just kind of wipe it off on the rag, or if you're using Gamsol. So it depends on what kind of method that you want. If you want the paint thicker, you would not do that. You would not dip your brush in a solvent. So if you were using watercolors, you would not dip your brush in water. And if you're using acrylics, you would not dip your brush in water. And if you were using oils, you would not use your linseed or your Gamsol. And this is just for practicing on just watercolor paper, or you can do it on a canvas, just so you get the idea of how the colors will mix together and the textures. And then I would do it if you were using acrylics and oils with watercolors. You can see the difference, and I'll show you in a minute how that will work. So now I'm going to pick up a little bit of white. With watercolor, you could just dilute it more, and it just shows of how it's a little bit more opaque, and how we can build up and do foliage like this. And we can do this with trees. We can do it in different colors. If we were doing a fall scene, we might have some yellows and some reds and some oranges, but just a quick way. And you can always go back again with your color. I'll show you. You can put a dark color, and you can keep doing that. You can keep building up the colors instead of doing it stroke by stroke. Now I'll show you if my brush was diluted. Okay, so it has a little bit of water, and I'm wiping it off. Now I'm going to pick it up. Now I'm going to pick up my yellow. It's kind of the same effect. It's just a little bit more washed out. Okay, so try it with your different colors and go. Maybe put a green in there. You can put your shadows if you see it in a tree. If you're doing foliage or something, you can go back. Just practice layering on top of each other, pressing hard, pressing not too hard, and seeing what happens. And again, it's the same technique if you're using acrylic oils or watercolors. Okay? The next thing I want to show you is that same brush, and this time we're going to make clouds. And I did a whole cloud video for you. So I just have white on the tip of the brush, and I'm pressing. Okay, and then I'm going to do another cloud down here. Okay, so I have these shapes, and I can go back with more white, and I can build them up where it's thicker. So now I have a thin and a thicker part of a cloud. If I press hard, the colors blend. So I get this type of a cloud. And I can go in with a little bit of my blue on the edge of my brush. Watch what I can do. I can go back in between, or whatever the sky color is. I can go with the gray, I can go with the Payne's gray, and I can bring that color of the sky or build a shadow within that cloud. So maybe I could use gray here, or if orange was coming through for a sunset, I can go and do that. And I'll show you what that looks like in another video. Okay, so you can build shadows directly on top of it. If you're doing watercolors, I did another video where you can mask it out, and I tell students they can use wax resist as far as using a crayon, white crayon, no color in it, just white, and you're kind of going over that area so that when you drag your brush across, the paint doesn't take. Or you can use masking fluid or just leave that area empty. Now we'll go here, this cloud. Okay, now the other thing is some clouds, they lose their shape. So I'm going to take another brush and I'm just going to pull out the edges and make them softer. So I'm just blending the edges into this blue area, and that gives me like a more soft, puffier cloud. So in the other video I've done about 15 different types of clouds because each of them are different. Some of them are more puffier, right? They have more white in them in the sky. Some of them are part white, and some of them just pick up the colors of the sky. Some of them have like colors, popping beyond. So just practice on a dark sheet of paper if you have, or you can do a blue sheet like I did, and just practice making your marks, with the clouds. And try to make, different types of clouds. Extend them, add shadows to them, press lighter in some areas, make some of the clouds smaller, some of them puffy. Practice again putting a dark shadow in the cloud. You can even move your brush around. So practice the different types of clouds on a dark sheet of paper. The other thing that I want to show you besides this and the foliage, and in the previous video we did the fan brush, is a brush that comes to a point. So you could have a liner. If you don't have a liner, it doesn't matter. Just use your smallish brush that comes to a point. So you can have a brush that looks like this. Brush that looks like this. It doesn't matter. Just use your smallest brush. If you don't have one, you can use a medium-sized brush. I've done videos with all different sizes. I'm just going to use this size, and I just want to show you another stroke again. So students have problems when they draw these strokes and they're trying to do a line and they run out of their medium. See what happens? You kind of lose the line. That just means you either need to dip up more of your solvent, whether that happens to be your water, or if it happens to be more of your linseed and your paint, and you kind of want to give it a little go here and practice those lines. So when you do them, you have a straight, nice line and you don't lose the paint. That's really important, especially when you're doing foliage. Sometimes, you're painting a tree or something like that. I'm just making these lines because I want to show you something that's kind of interesting here. Okay, so I'm making the shape of this tree here. It has these spaces in between. I can use the brush for this, and these are just tricks if you wanted to paint it real fast. And you could go in between, you see, and you can paint another color brown, and you can go and you could just use 3 or 4 different browns when you're kind of building up the bark of a tree. And it's a fast way of just doing it, especially, sometimes you're just doing these sketches where you're painting on location and you might kind of want to get that shape of the tree, and then you can go back and you can say, okay, I know my shadows are here, and you can start then building up the tree, but it gives it a lot of texture. But practice your linear movements first with the brush, okay? And then you can build up of how to do this bark. But you will need different color browns to go back in there and keep layering it. Okay, so I'll go into a whole different video about how to do trees and bark and the edge of leaves. We did talk about the palette knife, and I'll just show you this really fast here. So for the palette knife for leaves, I have a half blade here, and if I press, I can leave these spaces in between. You see I'm not filling up the whole canvas. and then I can go back with another color. I'll just show you. And we can build this up by building these spaces in between. I do this often when I want to paint with the palette knife and I want to do these kind of leaves on a bigger canvas, or grass. You know, I can just layer on top of each other. So practicing the layering where it's blending, and you can see I'm not cleaning the knife, I'm putting it on top. But I do a whole palette knife video on that just to teach you, but it's something that you want to practice. Again, just having control of the knife and practice layering on top of each other. Okay, another thing you could practice with the palette knife is having one color and then putting another color on top without it blending. So what we'll do is we'll use orange and put that here. And then I haven't cleaned my knife, and I'm going to pick up white. You're just going to practice, you know, just layering on top. Okay, so in other words, you're not pushing hard, and you can, you know, you can use another color like blue. This helps you control the knife, okay, and it helps you where you know how to put one color on top of another if you were doing layering. The knife is also used, you know, also for scraping colors. Sometimes you can do this if you want to do a background, and I'll do a whole series on that. But just practice these tips right now, just to get yourself familiar with the knife, because a knife can be used to do a lot of tips in painting, especially beautiful textural painting, where you don't have to always use the brush. Okay, so again, practice just layering on top, not blending, and seeing how much control you have with the knife. Okay, and again, you're going to do your clouds, right? You're going to practice that. I have a whole video that I did for you on clouds, and then you're going to practice these strokes. Okay, I'll see you next time. Ciao.